What's good with y'all? We about to be reacting to strange deaths in New York drill. This video was just uploaded 3 days ago. So let's get straight into it, man.
If you're not in tune with the New York drill scene, then you might not know who Shy K is. But for all intents and purposes, currently he's just another example of one of the hottest rappers in New York that ended up in either local or federal custody. As I've noticed a trend from Brooklyn to the Bronx that continues today, as the NYPD will just let you run free while they put together every piece of footage over the span of years and then grab you. But the first time I heard Shy was when a song called D&D came out. And I wasn't familiar with everybody that got dissed on this song, but one name that stood out was Delilah. And that's because this was obviously the name of a woman, and it's not like I haven't heard such disrespect before in Chicago, but something just didn't sound right about this kid saying he was smoking on some girl. What could she have possibly done to deserve that? And how did she die? These were the questions I had, but I never looked into it once I kept seeing pictures and videos of her with a set out of the Bronx called the Drillies, which the Bronx DA calls a set of bloods and subset of sex money murder. But like most girls that get caught up in situations like this, it's likely that she never even threw a rock, and that the people dissing her after she died was done more to hurt the guys she was around that are actually in the streets, rather than her being disrespected for something she actually did. Although she had been arrested at least once in the past for assault on another woman. And initially, all anyone knew is that someone shot her on the 3rd floor of an apartment building at 3339 Hull Avenue in the Norwood neighborhood of the Bronx. And something that I've noticed about whenever someone is killed inside of a building or a house, you'd think it would be a shut and closed case because surely the perpetrator would have been someone that was also inside, but this never seems to be the case. It was reported by multiple sources in the Bronx that she and several individuals were seen on camera entering this building, but around the time of the shooting, everyone but her is seen on camera running out, and that a weapon was tossed out of the window. The DA says this building was a trap house, and today these type of buildings are used more as hangouts to get high and have some type of safe haven to chill inside without just standing on the block lacking. So it's clear that the only people in the building with her were people that she knew and trusted. So of course, in the streets, her dying in this manner could only mean two things: a backdoor or an accident. And I've even heard that not only did her friends call her mother to tell her that she had been shot, but that
I heard about this story too. I ain't gonna lie. I think with Delilah, I ain't gonna say it. From things I've been hearing, it might be a backdoor for sure. That's not an accident. It's never an accident to just kill somebody again. I know it'd be some cases where it's like, oh, you just got shot by accident, the bullet wasn't for you, but that was very specific, bro. She actually was cooling with them, like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah.
they also waited nearly an hour to call an ambulance to the scene, and that she was still alive the entire time.
These people tricked me for over an hour to look for my daughter downstairs, and she was upstairs. That same number calls me back. Delilah's in apartment 3A. And she's dying and hangs up. Now,
this building on Hull Avenue was just around the corner from another building on Decatur Avenue, which the police acknowledged had been taken over by the Drilly Gang after its owner, a 97-year-old woman, had died. In fact, in 2022, the NYC Department of Buildings even issued notices to the owner about safeguarding it since the building had fallen into disrepair, but apparently the city was unaware that the owner had already been dead for 2 years at this point. And people on the internet were trying to blame this murder on a guy named Lee Drilly, especially after he got arrested. But he has never actually been formally charged with the murder, and he's currently serving time for drug trafficking. And the apartment around the corner from where Delilah was killed actually had drugs and paraphernalia as well as ammunition seized from it. Now, a woman named Precious, identified in the streets as PW Jet, along with a 16-year-old boy, were actually charged with the murder, being 2 of the 4 people that were supposedly in the building with Delilah at the time. And she eventually pled guilty to manslaughter instead of murder, which further adds to the theory that this was just an accident. But either way, her death actually added to the long indictment against the Drilly Gang, which took down 20 members and involved 32 different crimes and 18 weapons. Personally, I believe that Delilah's death was an accident, but that's still no excuse for her killer. Guns float around in the hands of teenagers so much these days that they get used like toys. And when you got a bunch of people not even old enough to drink playing with them, something like this is bound to happen no matter what. Delilah also didn't help herself in this situation, as if you're not the one shooting, you don't have any business around these guys in the first place, especially not in a trap house. Some people in New York say she was messing around with some of the Drillies, and some say she was a real member. But let's be real, anything can have you considered to be a real member these days, and had she chosen better friends, she'd still be alive. But moving on to a guy that people were commenting in my old New York video that I should cover, or at least look into his case. C.H. Watts. Now, before I even knew who he was, I kept seeing videos and clips of his dad speaking on his death. And in my opinion, that's kind of messy. The internet is a ruthless place, and speaking on the death of your child who is in the streets only leaves you as a parent open to all this trolling. But it seems like the things he was saying actually added to the confusion in his son's murder. Now, it was initially reported by police in Brooklyn that an 18-year-old man was shot in a parked car in Bed-Stuy in front of a recording studio around 790.
He's from the Bronx too. He got shot in Bed-Stuy. A lot of y'all that's not from New York, y'all don't know what Bed-Stuy is. Bed-Stuy is a part in Brooklyn for me. So he wasn't even in the Bronx for me. He was all the way in BK for me. I think he was at a party and something happened, bro. Like, but I ain't gonna lie. It came out, bro, not too long ago, right? That they charged PJ Glizzy allegedly, but we don't know the full story though, bro. We still, for me, it's still a mystery.
6 Green Avenue. But 796 Green Avenue is the address of a local deli. And I couldn't find any recording studio on that block unless they were just recording in one of the houses in the area. But his father told Charleston White that C.H. was at an Airbnb with his girlfriend and a few friends to shoot a music video, but that he got a phone call about another party at another Airbnb, which lured him to where he would be killed. Now, his father goes on to state that once he got to this other party, he saw some females there that he wasn't supposed to be around. And as a result, he says that C.H. wanted to go outside to finish shooting the video, and he asked his friends to let him hold a gun before he stepped out. But apparently they told him no, and when he left a couple seconds later, shots went off and he was dead. And even though eventually a man named PJ Glizzy was arrested for the murder, this story is just one of several conflicting stories on how it actually occurred, as some state that he did have a gun since one was recovered at the scene, but police also state that he was transported to the hospital by private means, so his body wasn't found at the scene. So either him having a gun was a lie, or whoever did take him to the hospital tossed the gun out of the car before they left. And then there's the fact that his father seemed to be speaking more from the perspective of what he heard rather than what actually happened. And even old social media posts from C.H. himself calling his father a deadbeat make it confusing as to why his father was even speaking about his death on social media and in interviews in the first place. Regardless of whether his father was actually there for him or not, one thing that seems consistent is that somebody assisted in getting him in a position to be killed. And like most similar cases, the blame always goes on a female. And this could be true, but then again, C.H. wasn't from Bed-Stuy or Brooklyn, so he probably should have never been out there in the first place, as he probably would have been more comfortable in the Bronx, which he was more familiar with. Because when you're in the streets, no part of the city is too far for you to be caught in. And in the indictment against the gang of the man charged for his murder, it's pretty vague on the circumstances of the murder, as it just states that he killed him in Bed-Stuy. And there is no mention of a female, a party, or an Airbnb, especially not 2 different Airbnbs. Now, am I saying that his father's story is a lie? No. Whoever his father heard this from, it was probably somebody in the Bronx or Brooklyn. Maybe even someone close to the situation. So it's very possible that a lot of this story is true. And wherever this second party was at an Airbnb could have very well been at a house that also doubled as a recording studio. But like many gang racketeering cases in New York, this one is federal. So getting all of the information from it won't be as easy as if it was just in the Bronx court or a Brooklyn court. So even though it seems to be solved, the circumstances of how he got to where he was and where he was before are still pretty hazy. Now for this last one, we're gonna take it all the way back to the origins of New York drill, with one of the pioneers and definitely a guy who gets credit for being one of the first in New York to get sturdy, Nick Blicky, a man who would today probably be a multimillionaire, gunned down at 21 by the same man that had just shook his hand seconds before taking his life. Now, the police solved this murder pretty quickly, as just a month after Nick was killed, a man named Caleb Glean was listed as the top suspect by NYPD. And this was due to several factors, not only the camera that captured the entire moment of he and Nick greeting each other just before he shot him, but also due to Caleb's distinct tattoos, blue bandana, and the bright colored foam posit shoes he was wearing. He was also captured on camera buying a drink from a local deli, hopping on a dirt bike after the shooting, and even entering the building that police knew he lived in after it was all done. Now, this man, who is 7 years older than Nick when he killed him, is a mystery to me. Not only has he been associated with 3 different sets in Brooklyn, indicating that he might have flipped once or even twice, showing that his loyalty could be shifted, but there's almost no motive known publicly about why he would have wanted Nick dead in the first place. The camera caught him as he left the deli and found Nick standing near Roger Street in the Prospect Lefferts Gardens neighborhood of Brooklyn, and after greeting him, he took a few steps back and fired. Clearly these two had some sort of relationship, or at the very least, Nick was under the impression that there was no ill will between them, as he appeared to be caught off guard. Now, Caliph has also been associated with Chef G, another Brooklyn rapper who's seen pictured here with Donald Trump, and a rival of the Blicky gang. But Chef has already been to the feds, out and back again, with no mention of him having put up any type of bounty on Nick. And he currently is back in prison on a gang conspiracy charge, so that kind of rules him out, even though it seems that the only real motives for this crime would have been either a bounty put up by someone or some type of personal dispute. But either way, the killer was caught red-handed 5 years ago and arrested in Philadelphia. It's still strange that in 2025, there is no clear motive for the betrayal of one of the genre's earliest pioneers. And unfortunately, he'll have to go down as another what-if story similar to another Brooklyn native, Pop Smoke. But it's just another cautionary tale of living that life. No matter how talented he might have been, or innovative, his ties in the streets opened up the possibility for such a thing to happen to him. But rest in peace to everyone I mentioned in this video, and thank you guys for watching as always. I'll see you next time.
This is a W video, bro. For sure. It's raining crazy outside, y'all. I know y'all can, I don't know if y'all can probably hear, y'all can see it. It's crazy. Look at the rain. This rain is crazy right now, bro. I ain't gonna lie, whoever outside right now and you in New York, whatever, bro. But you better make sure you got an umbrella, gang. I feel bad for people that's gotta wait for a bus. But man, y'all leave a like on the video if y'all enjoyed it, man. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video, bro.